That girl Henny, y'all gotta go to her channel.
The girl Henny, do you know who she is?
She a blogger or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, where this lady come from?
Girl been on your ass.
She on your life, G.
Shout out to Henny over there.
What's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to the bar. It's your girl, that girl Henny, and I am just here to, I don't know, kind of like have a conversation with y'all. Now, I usually have these conversations over on my Instagram Live, but I figured I need to just come over here and start having these conversations where it's just a drop of Henny. If you're new here, welcome, welcome. Please be sure to like, comment, and of course, subscribe. Click the notification bell, select all so you get notified whenever I do a video. And to all of my returning Mob Down Henny gang members, yeah. Now let's get into a little bit of a spill. So I know that I have been gone. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but I needed to take a mental health break for me because this Nolan Wells case, this investigation has been overwhelming for me. Now, I spoke about this a little bit on my Instagram Live. I'm going to speak about it again over here so that it's over here. This case, this investigation has taken on so many legs. It has gone in so many different directions. And at the end of the day, we still have no answers. All right. There's a lot of moving parts that have happened. Now, I have to warn you, this is not a visual live, which means that I will not be putting things up on the screen. I will just be talking. And if you guys want to come up at any point in time, you could say, drop the link. I'll let y'all up. We can converse, but I'm also not going to be here for a long time. So we have another set of people who have come out from the group that went out with Nolan to the island. It looks like Officer Bigsby has brought out more people. So we were introduced to Jax and we've been introduced to Morgan. And Morgan is a name that we've never even heard of. Morgan just came out of nowhere. They were talking about receiving threats, and the lawyer was up there talking about defamation and all this other yippity yappity hippity happity boo blah blue. My thing is the script is being flipped, and now they have become the victims in this case. And it pisses me off. Oh, it's okay, Kristen. It pisses me off because this case is not about them. This case is about finding out what happened to Nolan. So I feel like nobody has a right to come forward and say anything about what's going on with them until the investigation is over. I mean, that's usually what happens, right? The investigation happens, it rolls on, grand jury closes out. Either they have arresting charges or they have closed it out completely. All right. The grand jury is still going, and we have people coming out announcing that they'll be going for defamation. That's out of order. That's completely out of order. So the attention and the tides are being turned. And it started with the arrest of people who were making threats against the judge, the sheriff's department, and Bart Edmondson. That's where the tide started. Oh, no, let me back it up. It started when Russell Latino came out and announced that he was going to be doing defamation suits, and Bart Edmondson's family decided to go with Russell Latino to cover them for a defamation suit. And then it went on into these arrests that happened. So you're telling me that out of all of these death threats that were received, right, only 3 people have been arrested? So were those 3 people the only ones that were responsible for making these threats? I'm just curious because I thought they were getting an insurmountable amount of death threats. Now, I'm not in no way saying that death threats are cool or that it's okay to go around threatening people's lives. I'm not saying that because I'm not with that, okay? But what I am asking is, were those the 3 people who were threatening everybody? Where's the other arrests? No, it was a ploy to turn the tides, to get people to take their attention off of Nolan and to focus on, hey, look over here. Look over here. There's this going on with them. They're being harassed and hounded. So that came out. Then Christine gets attacked, and people make harassing comments, reviews. They leave defamatory reviews on her job site. And then they go, because there was no consequence, they go and they make a false allegation to the nurses board. And so here we are where the mother of the person who was unalived, who we still don't have answers for what happened to, is being victimized. So now nobody's talking about that. Nobody's speaking on that. I mean, we've covered it. Damn it. We've covered it, but no one made a big hoopla about that. Why didn't the state pick that up? Shouldn't there be some type of charge that the state can pick up for falsifying a report to the Mississippi Board of of Nurse Practitioners or nursing, whatever it's called? Can't they file some type of grievance against a false report? I mean, that is a governmental agency, isn't it? Or no? Y'all tell me, is that a governmental agency? Because that should be illegal. Whether she chooses to file against them people or not. So I understand that Ben is telling her, um, okay, so you said one. Take one. I'm not only two. Oh, because it's a little an occasion. Sorry, y'all. Hey, Bobby Burnett. Hey, everybody in the chat. So I understand that Ben has said, oh, this is all just a distraction. I get it. I don't agree with it because I feel like because there's no consequence, people keep going. And I think we all know that that's what happens. When there's no consequence to a person's actions, they're just going to keep going. And look, it went from leaving nasty reviews on her job site to filing a whole false complaint. So for me, I say maybe what she's doing, maybe she's just waiting for all of this to be done with her son before she goes forward with whatever it is that she's going to do. The only victim is Nolan. I don't give a fuck about these. Neither do I. All of this could have waited until the investigation was closed. In my humblest of opinions. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to come on the camera or not. Okay. I will do this. I can't really bring up any content because I'm starting to feel like them boys will only be getting justice. And that's what it's seeming like to me as well. Because everyone seems so interested in what's going on with the boys. Meanwhile, we just looking for answers. So if you could sit down, she said, is that the right background? I believe so. Is that girl Henny? You don't like that one? You want me to put the other one up? It's confusing. That better? It was the right background. And there's like more proof, more evidence. Okay, so now I was recently sent a photograph of the governor with Bart Edmondson's family. Here's the thing. This is a close, tight community, and everybody knows everybody. I'm not surprised by anything that is going on. Now people are saying Christine has not turned over the phone yet to the FBI. Well, I thought they were supposed to be meeting together. I thought they were supposed to be coming together. I thought they agreed to review the phone at the same time. And based off of the letter, let me see if I can get this letter in here. Based off of the letter that Crump's team sent to the Attorney General, Angel Myers, it sounds to me like it's not just a matter of, oh, we're not going to, let me see if I can add these. They're just not going. Okay, I do have my stuff up. All right. So there y'all have the letter. All right. So let's read said letter together. I'm going to keep talking and I'm going to ask y'all, can y'all hear me clearly? Because I am outside, but can y'all hear me? Hey, everybody. Okay. So the letter says as follows. This is coming from A.R. Smith Law. This is the law firm that Christine Walmsley has put in charge of her son's estate. Because remember, she became the executor or the executive of the administrative over his estate. So she hired A.R. Smith Law. And this letter is dated August 11th, right? And it says, Dear Miss McGrilliff, whatever her name is, that's Angel Myers. Please be advised that A.R. Smith Law Firm PLLC has been retained to serve as local counsel for the estate and family of Nolan Wells. Moving forward, I will be working alongside the legal team at Ben Crump Law in representing our clients and addressing matters arising from Mr. Wells' death. As the legal team, as the legal team has stated previously, including during our in person meeting with the Wells family and counsel, we have been and remain ready and willing to cooperate in arranging a joint forensic inspection of Nolan Wells' personal cell phone. So let's stop right there. They're still willing to do a joint investigation, a forensic investigation into Nolan's cell phone. So it doesn't sound like to me like the family is not cooperating, but the narratives are going out there that the family is not cooperating. The family still hasn't done this, and the family still hasn't done that. Well, the family's not going to turn over the phone if they had an agreement for all parties to sit down as the phone is being gone through at the same time to see everything at the same time. If that's not happening, you're not getting the phone. Period. All right. It says during that meeting, we specifically discussed having the examination conducted through a digital forensic lab at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, as well as the possibility of FBI involvement in that process. Our position has not changed. We are prepared to coordinate a mutually agreeable date and procedure for the examination of the phone. So they're still willing to do the joint investigation. I'm not hearing anything that's saying that they're not willing to cooperate. Okay? Their position hasn't changed. Accordingly, to the extent that there has been any suggestion that we have been unwilling or have failed to cooperate with the investigation, we want to make clear that this is not the case. So they're straight up telling everybody, y'all out here saying we not cooperating and that we're not showing up, but that's not true. It's right there in writing to the district attorney. You also previously indicated that Dr. Mitchell, now this is the important part, that Dr. Mitchell would be provided an opportunity to review the materials necessary for him to complete his autopsy review. Dr. Mitchell still has not received all of the items that he said he needed, which includes the neck structure. We remain prepared to facilitate that process. Please provide us with available dates and times for Dr. Mitchell to review those materials, along with any instructions necessary to arrange his access. We would like to move both of these matters forward promptly and remain available to coordinate with your office. Did y'all hear all that? Uh-oh, I might have to go inside, y'all. It's raining. Did y'all hear all of that? Because I read the whole letter, but I don't know if y'all heard it. Okay. Can hear Henny Glass is in the chat if y'all can hear the rain in my background. So while they're trying to come with this narrative that they're not cooperating with them, it turns out to be a lie. No, you can't hear it. Okay, good. Law enforcement really doesn't need Nolan's phone if they have data from other phones. They were with that were with Nolan on the Triton. They never issued a warrant for it. Well, I mean, this has become, they requested the phone, and it is a part of the investigation when you have Christine saying that she thinks some things were deleted out of the phone. Now, I remember when she first initially came out, she said she believed that things had been deleted from the phone because Nolan was heavy with Snapchatting. He snapped everything, he posted, he took pictures, he always had his phone in his hand. So when she went to his Snapchat and didn't see any activity for the day, she felt like somebody had did something to his phone. Well, now there has to be some type of forensics done to see if anything was tampered with. Were there text messages deleted? Were there calls deleted? Did somebody access his phone? Like, they're trying to get down to the bottom of that. So basically, police and DA is wanting the grand jury results before continuing the investigation. Well, no, everything is going through the grand jury at this point. And so when the grand jury concludes their investigation, then they, I guess, will make announcements as to how they're moving forward, because that's usually how it goes. I don't know why YouTube keeps kicking you out. See, now y'all told me y'all couldn't hear the rain. Yes, it's pouring here. So that's a lie that could be debunked. And remember when I said that there was a photograph of Bart Edmondson's family with the governor? This is the photo that was sent to me. And this is what was told to me, that that's Bart's family with the governor. I'm just passing the information along. What are the boys turning over? We don't know. We don't know if the boys turned over their phone. Well, we know that Bart turned over his, according to his lawyer. Remember? Bart's lawyer said that he turned over, he cooperated. I believe he said he turned over the phone. He gave them a passenger list, a passenger manifesto, and about 60 people who were there. So I'm thinking the 60 people that Bart gave him is the 60 people that the sheriffs went and investigated. I don't know if it's true about his grandfather being Dixie Mafia or not, but I wouldn't put it past. And that's in my opinion. So Great Song said anyone can take a phone to celebrate to get a GPS and other data from it. My company took our phones to celebrate due to a large utility event that was part of an internal investigation. Okay, didn't know that. Learned something new today. What I'm saying is Mississippi police is stalling investigation with examining cell phone data and releasing the throat, hoping GJ grand jury determines not to bring charges. Well, no, they had to turn over their materials to the grand jury. if they deleted any incriminating photographs, King CJ, that would then be extracted from the Celebrate. Because the whole reason they use the Celebrate is to extract all data. And what happens is, even if you delete something in your phone, it's never really gone. When I was sitting at the Diddy trial, the way the forensics expert explained it to us was, in your phone, even though you may delete something, in your phone, it still stays in your phone's hard drive. And it doesn't delete until it starts. I don't know if it's the hard drive or the core memory, but either way, where your information gets stored at, it stays there until it's reached capacity, and then it'll start overwriting stuff. And just because we think that the phone has reached its capacity, that doesn't mean that it did. So you could have deleted something. Say you had the same phone 5 years ago. You could have deleted something 5 years ago out of your phone. If you have not had that much data come in where it needed to be overridden, then they can still extract that from about the phone. The black what is that? Was it the Black Caucus? They have requested that the Department of Justice get involved. They have submitted a letter to the United States Department of Justice to get involved in this case because it's been over a month. Hold on. Let me grab that real quick. Okay, yeah, it's the Black Congressional Caucus. Hold on, I'm getting something for y'all. All right. Hopefully it'll upload and then I can put it on the screen and then we can read that together. Okay. I could get rid of this now. All right, let's see if we can add this letter to the overlays. Okay. So here's the letter that the hold on. So the Congressional Black Caucus wrote a letter to Todd Blanche, the United States Attorney General. That's the one who took over for Pam Bondi. And to Kash Patel. And in their letter, they said, Dear Attorney General Blanche and Director Patel, more than a month has passed since the tragic disappearance and death of 18-year-old Nolan Xavier Wells, and his family is still without fundamental answers about what happened to their son. The Congressional Black Caucus stands with the Wells family and joins their call for a full, transparent investigation and timely investigation into the circumstances surrounding Nolan's disappearance and death. It is unacceptable that so many questions remain unanswered as the Wells family continues to suffer what is already an unimaginable loss. Nolan was a young student athlete with with a promising life of him. Yet more than 30 days After his disappearance and death, significant questions remain unanswered about the events of July 4th, 2026, and the circumstances that led to his death. The Wells family has been forced to grieve while also seeking basic information about what happened to their son. At the same time, there has been there's been insufficient public information from the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, which has continued to defer questions regarding the investigation to the district attorney. Accordingly, the Congressional Black Caucus requests that the United States Department of Justice immediately undertake an independent federal review of the circumstances surrounding Nolan Wells' disappearance and death. Provide proper federal investigative assistance and determine whether there is a base for a federal investigation, including under applicable federal civil rights laws. We recognize that, okay, let me put the other one up there for y'all. We recognize that local authorities have an ongoing investigation. However, we are concerned by the silence and lack of answers the Wells family and the public have received over the past month. A local investigation does not diminish the need for federal assistance or an independent assessment of whether additional investigative resources or federal jurisdictions are warranted, nor should federal involvement be viewed as prejudging the facts or conclusion of any investigation. We simply want to ensure that every appropriate resource, investigative tool, and avenue of inquiry is being used to establish the truth. The lack of answers thus far continues to fuel speculation and grief. Neither the Wells family nor the public should be left to fill an information vacuum with speculation. The Department of Justice possesses investigative resources and expertise that can help establish the facts, determine whether any federal laws were implicated, and provide confidence that every appropriate avenue has been pursued. Given the extraordinary circumstances surrounding Nolan's death and the continued absence of answers more than a month later, we believe involvement is warranted now. DOG can help ensure that the investigation is thorough, impartial, and conducted in accordance with the law. The Wells family deserves to understand what happened to their son. They deserve answers. They deserve transparency. And they deserve confidence that every available resource has been brought to bear in determining the truth. In the interest of justice, we request that the department immediately review this matter and advise the Congressional Black Caucus and the Wells family of the steps it has taken or intends to take. Further, we request a written response within 7 days of receipt of this letter regarding the department's involvement in this matter. We look forward to your immediate attention and response. U.S. Representative Yvette D. Clark, Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Hey, hey y'all, just coming in. So yeah, the Congressional Black Caucus is involved in this now. And they're requesting in 7 days they get something back in writing from them. Now, let me check the date. The date is August 12th on this letter. Let me get back to it. Hold on. They wrote this, on August 12th it was sent. They want an answer. So that means that by next week Tuesday, we should have an answer. 7 days, 7 business days. Hold on, y'all. Today is Tuesday or is it Wednesday? It's Wednesday. So by next week, Wednesday, they should have some type of answer. Period. Well, to my understanding, not only was it in the Gulf, to my understanding, Horn Island is federal property. So I never understood why the feds didn't take over the case neither, Kristen. Because the feds stepped in, but the feds came in and said, oh, we're just here, Jackson County is going to lead the investigation. We're just here to assist, basically. And they said that they were going to be there to do the digital forensics. So when they announced that they were doing the digital forensics, the feds did, I figured, okay, it's only a matter of time before they get Nolan's phone because I want to know if stuff was. Here's what I want to know. I want to know, was Nolan with Katie on the island all day, as everybody said? Did Katie actually physically observe Nolan getting on the boat? Did Katie, if she did physically observe Nolan getting on the boat, did Katie know that there was some trouble going on with that boat? Javon, did you at some point while you were on the island become aware of the fact that there was some trouble going on with one of those boats? Because when you get into that timeline from the video that I did, when you get into that timeline, it's damn near impossible for no one to know whether or not there was boat issues. Okay, let me see if I have a picture of that timeline that I could share with you all, and we could go through together because that's just based off of what the friend said. I'm going to be working diligently to try and get that timeline video finished for y'all. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. All right. All right, so let me go ahead and let me remove this. Let me remove this. And let me remove this because I don't need that anymore. And let me go ahead and let me add this timeline so we could talk about this for a second. Okay, so this is the timeline that I constructed based off of what everyone had said up to that point. Now I have to do another video, okay? I have to finish up my second video and I have to get into another timeline. But remember, Warren said he last saw Nolan at 3:00. All right, boom, boom, boom. Trayston last saw him at 3:44 o'clock, right? Now, yet the last live that I did, we went over the Cito phone call. And the Cito phone call happened at 4:48. So this hasn't even been updated as of yet. This is still the previous one. So that 3:48 is wrong. 4:48 would be the proper time that phone call went out. Okay? And that's going off of uh, the UTC time being converted and Mississippi being Central Daylight Time. So if Javon says around 4 something is the last time that he saw, around 3:44 o'clock is the last time that he saw Nolan, right? That would mean that when Javon says he went back and he last saw the boats at like 4:20, it would have to be later than that. See, here's the problem with the timeline, you guys. Here's the problem. Let me come back for a second. Here's the problem with the timeline. The problem with the timeline is this better not be what I think it is. The problem with the timeline is how can everybody give a precise time to the timeline when everybody was allegedly on the boat and nobody had a watch? How do they even know what time it was? So when we start looking at this timeline right here, even with this right here, how can you confidently say what time it was? Because already, if Javon is saying that, oh, I was only going for like 15, 20 minutes that at like around 3:40, 4 o'clock, my friend got into a fight and I left Nolan. And when I came back about 15, 20 minutes later, the boats were gone. Well, the boats pulled off at 4:30. The sea tow call happened at 4:48, not 3:48. So you were gone longer than what you knew, but how do you know that that was the time? I showed you how that was converted. There's no way. NBC did not make a mistake. They did not. No matter how you try to slice it and dice it, they didn't make a mistake. Because I even showed you myself. But let me see and let me pull it up because I did my own research. If you look it up for yourself, you'll see it too. Let me get these up here. Boom. What does that say? If the call was made at 21:48 UTC, it would have been 9:48 p.m. on the 12-hour time, right? But when you look down at common time zone conversions, let me take these off the screen because I don't just go off of what people tell me. When every time I do, I end up having to come back and retract. So when you look at it, it says that 21:48 Eastern Daylight Time would have been 5:48. Central Daylight Time is 4:48. So I asked, so 21:48 UTC would be what time in Mississippi? And it said 21:48 UTC is 4:48 p.m. in Mississippi. So that's how I came to the conclusion that it's not what you call it, that it was not 3:40 p.m. It wasn't around 4 o'clock. And I think I know how people got confused. And I think it got confusing when you get to here. Because it says Eastern Standard Time is 4:48 p.m. EDT. For 4:48 Eastern Standard Time, that right there is what made people probably say, oh, well, if it's 4:48 on the East Coast, then it would be 3:48 Central Time. But when you get to the common time zone conversions from UTC, you see that it wasn't, that it was actually 4:48 p.m., which when you think about it, when you really think about it, that would make sense because why would they be calling for a CETO if they really weren't in trouble yet? Because according to how the story goes that the boat started taking on water and they had to go. So it didn't make sense to me that the phone call would happen at 3:48, but they wouldn't pull off from the island until 4:31. So you sat there for almost an hour just sitting still, which to my understanding is the worst thing that you could do when your boat is taking on water is to sit still. But when I saw that, oh, wait a minute, the conversion wasn't 3:48, it was at 4:48, that makes a little bit more sense to me because now at 4:31, according to the GPS and what the MDMR told us, they were being towed slowly from the shore. And with them being towed slowly from the shore, they would make the call at 4:48, which would put them in the water making the call and not actually on the shore, which is why when they gave the coordinates, they weren't exactly on the shoreline. They were away from the shoreline, but it was still in the general area of Horn Island. Right, that's what I was saying, Purple Doll. That it aligns with the timeline of what was given to us from the GPS, from the boat, from the from the what the hell is the name of that boat? The Triton. Because yeah, now you guys have done whatever to try to get off of the island. Unfortunately, um, with the way that everything is going with the timeline with the phone call, I mean, the speculations are the speculations. We hearing what we hearing what we hearing, but and notice I'm not saying anything about aligning with what they have said. I'm saying what I'm going off of with the data. Hold on, because I'm about to come on in the room from my pewter. You might hear a funny noise, but I promise it'll only be for a second. Because this was cute to do from the phone, so I wasn't attached to the computer, but okay. All right. Now that we're here, now that we are gathered here today, now that we are gathered here today, let us be great. Let us be great. All right, so let me go ahead and let me do this. Let me open this up. Let me pull this down, and then let me share the screen with y'all so y'all can see that that ain't no bullshit. Not that anybody said it, but I just like to cross my T's and dot my I's so everybody understands. All right, so we got that. We've got a fresh Google page up, right? So let's ask Google. What time is 21:48 UTC in Mississippi? And there you have it. You see me just pull it up right in front of your eyes. There it is. And then when you click down here to the more, daylight savings time, standard time. Okay, what was the other one that it gave me? The comparable table. Okay, so let's do this. What time is 21:40 C in Mississippi on July 4th? I'm sorry. What time is 21:48 UTC? Hold on. What time is 21:48 UTC on July 4th, 2026? Hold on. Oh, my bad. Hold on, because that gave the wrong. I don't want my. Hold on. What time is 21:48 UTC in Mississippi on July 4th, 2026? I should have just left it because whomever is whatever. Okay, so yeah, boom. It's still 21:48 UTC on July 4th, 2026. The time in Mississippi was 4:48 p.m. It's not standard time. It was not standard time. It was not standard time. It was UTC time. Want to know how I know? If you watched my video, Gray Song, then you would have understood if you watched the last one. Because here it is right here. See, there it is right here. This is the receipt. Victoria Garcia, when you get right here, this is the date. July 4th, 2026, 2148 UTC. Not standard time. UTC. And even that person thought that the time transferred to 348, and it was not 348. It was 448. Because I just showed you that. Okay? Well, that's what everybody else thought too, but you see right here what it is. CDT is Central Daylight Time. So that's that on that. But yeah, I still have the next timeline to come. But this interview that was done with Tatum, I guess there's going to be a part 3 to it. I'm really not interested. Too tough, because I don't feel like we're getting very much when it comes down to what these boys are talking about in these interviews. Okay, that's the wrong one. Okay, let's.
Hey, can you guys go out and check out this island and look for Nolan Wells? Well, that's exactly what Warren did. To call a federal.
I love that man more than anybody. And like, so did all of my friends. And it's absolutely horrible that these people want to come on and push this narrative that we had something to do with this or we killed our best friend. It's just sick to me, Brandon. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, this might be too long, but I have a few things I need to add. First of all, with respect to Warren, if you just murdered your best friend on an island, the dumbest thing you could do would be to call the Coast Guard, to call a federal law enforcement agency and tell them, hey, can you guys go out and check out this island and look for Nolan Wells? Well, that's exactly what Warren did. Warren called the Coast Guard. And that is one of many very compelling facts. He got back and he called the Coast Guard. Does that sound like a guilty man to you?
That's not exactly the timeline. For you to be the lawyer that's representing them, that's not exactly the timeline that we received. It wasn't like he got back on land and said, hey, Nolan's still on the island. Let me call the Coast Guard. It was hours later. It was hours later before he made that phone call to the Coast Guard. The phone call was made at 11 something at night. If I'm not mistaken, it was made at 11 something at night. And you claim the last time you saw Nolan was at 3 p.m. Oh, wait, no. The last time you saw Nolan, he was in the water with the Katie girl. But you said at 3 p.m., Nolan was cradling the girl, Katie. But then you see him in the water next to the boat. And then we get a photo of what appears to be Nolan next to the boat in the water, but we don't see Katie next to him in the boat in the water. So when did you last see Nolan? And how do you know that it was 3 p.m. when you last saw him? That's not being answered. It's not being answered as to how y'all know the time. Brandon Bigsby is not asking them, how do you know what time it was? Javon gave very specific times. We got out to the island, it was 11 a.m. At about, I was with Nolan and about 3:40, 4 o'clock, my friend got into a fight. I was going for about 15, 20 minutes. How is this so? And I'm asking this of everybody involved. I'm asking a question. I got questions. So, and I want to know, because Warren said in his interview by himself that he was upstairs talking to his girlfriend's dad because they were at the girlfriend's house for a pool party, and they were upstairs. He was talking to him about boats and stuff. And then he came downstairs and he said and slipped up, and he was like, Wyatt was talking about Nolan. And I asked, had anybody seen Nolan? So you didn't think about Nolan being left behind the whole time until then? And then Trayston says you started calling him around 9 something. See, let me shut up because I got a whole video coming. on that. Because there's more to this timeline that has questions, and that's not being addressed. Like, y'all tap dancing around everything. In the beginning of this, Bigsby asked them, y'all know who Bigsby is. Bigsby asked them to describe how they had been accosted. Well, from the story that they gave us, it doesn't sound like they were directly accosted. It doesn't sound like they had anyone do any physical harm to them in person. Do y'all want me to play that part? Where they was talking about that? Do y'all want me to play that part? Because they're talking about that. They're talking about this defamation. They're not giving us, she said yes. Why, yes, we do, Henny. We would like for you to play that for us. Why, I don't even know why you asked that. You know we do. All right, so hold on. Since we on a go there.
You know, obviously before this
Spotted, going day by day out and hang out, try to beat us up, stopped.
Help great people. And
in a typical experience, then you lose your friend, Nolan. And
it's a tragedy.
So you guys have.
Now, I'm going to pause for the photographs because my thing is, and I said this earlier on my Instagram, if my best friend, well, let me scratch that and say this. When my best friend died, nobody could keep me from that funeral. I've lost a best friend. She died of a heart attack. Nobody could keep me from that funeral. There's nothing that would have kept me from showing my grief for my friend. For the first couple of years, I posted on her birthday. But then I learned that posting a person on the birthday
it really doesn't do much except for bring people into the business or give them the free range on social media to say whatever they want to say. I mean, nobody said anything bad, but it was just like my personal feelings towards my best friend on her birthday is my personal feelings towards my best friend. But if something would have happened under suspicious circumstances, I don't care. I would have asked the family, can I still come to the funeral? I would have showed up. If the family would have said no, I would have put my own little thing together and invited the family to come to what I had put together. I would have left my social media open. Y'all have photographs with him. Why aren't y'all putting those up? Rest in peace to my friend. I miss you, dog. Like, why? Those are the things that have people looking at them suspiciously. Attorney Cox. It's their movements. It's been their silent. It's been over a month. And now people want to come out and do interviews? Javon and Trayston said something way before now. Gave accounts of what they thought was going on. Hell, Trayston talked to Rolling Stones, talked to, who was that? NBC, ABC, CBS, one of them. And then went on Tatum. Javon came out. He spoke to TMZ and CNN. These boys are coming out and only sitting with Bigsby. They're not sitting down with no major news outlets. They're only sitting down with Bigsby. Is it because it's been alleged that he is over the urban, what is it, urban development? Urban. You know what urban means, right? Oh, man. Anyway, let's continue.
You know, obviously, before this happened, I would assume you're living a regular life, young guys being in college. You know, having a typical experience.
I forgot I muted myself. I said, this is the stuff that people would have been looking to see on your social media. This is what would have told us a story about y'all before y'all ever opened your mouths. But oops, that's right. Somebody told y'all, shut down your social media. I wonder who told y'all to do that. I wonder who said, close the social medias. That would look funkier than, what? Funkier than get out. I don't get no green water. Well, you know, I was told there's a story to this, and that part of the island is sunken underwater or something or other because of a hurricane that came through there. Oh, yes, we know. The mom judge. I'm being a little sarcastic by saying, I wonder who told them. But yeah, we know that's who told them to do it.
Then you lose your friend, Nolan. And after that, what has life been like for you guys?
I think like ever since it happened, my life just like hit like a hole, like it just stopped. And I mean, we just got to live day by day from now on.
I could say definitely a whole flip upside down for our lives. It's like even going out, you know, we're always paranoid somebody's going to see us, get spotted, try to beat us up potentially, or even worse. We're really just trying to stay low key and not go out as much or anything like that. Yeah.
It's been hard because my friends and I are people. I mean, we like to be out and hang out outside of our friend group, and not being able to like go certain places or, walk around in public because
Can you give me some examples of what has happened? Have you guys had things happen online, threats online? Have you guys have any examples of people accosting you or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we have had countless death threats online.
This happened. Have you guys had things happen online, threats online? Have you guys have any examples of people accosting you or anything like that?
Oh yeah. We have had countless.
Are y'all? Let me shut up.
Death threats online. Been spotted. I'll let you elaborate more on that. Being spotted.
I mean, people have obviously just pointed us out. I mean, as a group and even on a one-on-one setting, I think it's really just like awkward because I don't want to talk about this, and I know my friends don't want to talk about this any more than we need to. We're still mourning one of our best friends' death, and it's hard to speak about it when, like sometimes we just need some alone time, or sometimes we just need to, lay back and not be around all this. And I mean, I've been called out in public, and I haven't been in public that much. I know my friend.
What does this have to do with Nolan? What does this have to do with Nolan? The first two portions of these interviews have nothing to do with Nolan. Let me tell you something. When a narrative is not being spun, and this is just in my opinion and in my observations, when a narrative is being spun, you spin the narrative before you get to the other part. This is what they are highlighting right now. You could have rolled into some things a little bit better than this, because this gives, let's show how they're the victims in the midst of us trying to find out what happened to Nolan, who is not here, who is the very obvious victim in this situation. It's bullshit to me, not what's happening to them, but that's a second separate story. You don't come out and you don't title this Nolan Wells' best friends drop massive update in Nolan Wells investigation in exclusive interview. You don't tell us that this is what this is about, that it's about the Nolan Wells investigation. And you don't lead with the Nolan Wells investigation. Instead, you put they're being defamed and social media is this and false narratives that, and they're being victimized this way and they're being victimized that way, to where everybody gets this feeling of, oh, poor them, right? That's terrible what's happening to them. Now, when you get into the Nolan Wells investigation part of it, and you get into the accounts, because I would like to hear from Jax, I would like to hear from Morgan, I would like to get their sequence of events. Now, when you get to that portion of things, everyone's hearts are bleeding for them. And now this becomes the thing. This is not about them. It is not about what's happening outside of the investigation. This is why things are all over the place, because they're giving so much for us to basically, it's like a look over here, look over here, look over here. And you know people are going to pay attention because people want to hear what they have to say, because we're trying to see what the timeline, well, for me, let me speak for me. I'm trying to get the timeline in place. I'm trying to figure out who everybody is and where everybody was. We still have not met all of the 20 to 30 passengers that were on all three boats. Morgan is a new addition. Jax, we knew was there. Jax was there because Jax was where Warren and Nolan and whomever else stayed the night before they went out to go boating. Okay.
Friends have had encounters in public. The threats have been insane from, my stepmom and my dad, my mom, just everyone included, like even my brothers and my sisters. And it's just hard. I mean, it's unbelievable where like this has been taken to and the level where this is at.
When you say you've been called out in public,
Rochelle said, you should see if they'll let you interview them and the case will be over. They wouldn't sit down with me. They wouldn't sit down with me. Because the questions that I would ask, they would not be willing to answer. Because I would ask, well, how did you know what time it was? And did Nolan actually say out of his mouth that he was staying behind? And what was all of the chaos that was going on? Can you make out what was being said and who was speaking in the background? We know Wyatt is on the phone, but Warren, we've heard your name. We've heard Bart's name. We've heard a couple of other voices. Who were the other people? Who were the people that rode back with you? Why did you guys shut down your social media? This is why they won't interview with anybody else, because Bigsby is going to give them the soft, cushy questions. They're not going to answer the hard questions.
you give me an example of like, what do you mean? People are threatening you with weapons? People are, not allowing you, denying you service? Because I heard that Trayston, he went to a corner store and they told him his money is not good there. They wouldn't even let him buy Gatorade.
Yeah.
Are you experiencing things like that or something totally different?
Right. I wouldn't say like that. I think I haven't been denied,
They bring up Trayston, right? Being denied. Being told that his money was no good there. I'm looking up something. Hold on. Brandon Tatum is a prominent contributor, speaker, and former host associated with Turning Points. Because Tatum has heavily publicized Pulaski's involvement in his conservative audience, the lawyer's name became tightly linked to media circles surrounding Turning Point figures, despite Platsky himself being an official member of the organization. Wait a minute. Okay, what's this guy's name? That's him? Oh, J. Tyler Cox. That's who I'm looking up. I'm not looking up that one. I'm looking for him. J. Tyler Cox. Hold on. Well, I'm going to let this play while I look up this.
Anything, but like tracing it's hard to hear from a good friend of mine that he's getting denied a Gatorade and a Red Bull before work and having to, like, he calls me, he's like, dude, you won't believe what just happened. He got called out at Walmart. Someone called him out at Walmart and was like asking him all these questions and trying to press him about it. And it's crazy to me. Like, you know, we live in a very tight knit community, and for people to, you know, push back and say these things when they know what Ocean Springs is like, it's really hard. And I mean, I haven't had many personal encounters, but I know being around the guys and stuff like that, they have. So,
And Ed, as an attorney that's representing these boys, I mean, what does that make you feel like? You know, do you feel like you got a good case here, or, you know, what's your perspective in that? Because, you know, people are online and obviously they know who you are. Obviously they know you represented Donald Trump in some pretty high profile cases. And so now that you've joined, or at least now you work for the young men here, you hear them say things like they've been accosted, they've been, you know, threatened online. Does that make your case a greater case, or how do you work within what's happening to these young men?
Well, unfortunately, I wish there was no case. I wish this hadn't happened. But unfortunately, because these things did happen, there is a case, and now there's multiple cases. And I'm going to tell you something. If you're out there and you lied about these guys, you lied about my guys, you lied about Tyler's guys here, if you lied about Morgan, if you lied about Jax, if you lied about Warren, we're going to get you. And you're going to be hauled into court. You're going to be held accountable. And it's going to be very painful.
Listen to what he said. If you talked about my guys, you're going to be hauled into court, and it's going to be painful. That's a threat. That's a threat. Everybody is talking about them. Okay, so let me give you this information according to Google. Brandon Tatum is an official high-profile contributor and former executive for Turning Points USA. His relationship with the organization spans several major roles over nearly a decade. Did y'all know this? Did y'all know that? That his relationship with Tatum's relationship with Turning Points spanned several major roles over nearly a decade? So let's get into it. Number one, executive leadership. After leaving law enforcement in late 2027, let me see if I can send this to myself on my computer. It didn't send the whole damn thing. Hold on. Let's do this. And then let's do this. Damn, I like the way that it was when I asked this question before. Now it's changed its answer. All right, we're going to go here and go here and go. What's Brandon Tatum's association to Turning Points USA? All right, let's get here. All right. So Brandon Tatum is an official contributor, speaker, and ambassador for Turning Points USA, where he regularly engages young conservatives on college campuses and through media platforms. Additionally, his organization, Bellex, partnered with Turning Point USA to incorporate corporation and branding structures while keeping him in leadership. The other one that I had more on him, and it was more structured and broken down, but it did not translate over. So official contributor and speaker, Tatum works directly with Turning Points USA as a featured commentator, frequently headlining campus lecture events, and student summits. Belzec, I don't know, that's his name, co-founded by Tatum and Candace Owens. But see, this said, okay, what is his role with Turning Point USA that has spanned almost over a decade? Oh my God. What are some of the major roles he has played and positions he has held with Turning Points USA for over a decade? He over the urban outreach. That's the part that's pissing me off, because it said that he was a part of urban outreach. And now it doesn't want to give me this information. All right, let's get back to the video, and I'm going to keep going until I get it.
What I would say to the people who have done that is, now's your chance. If you want to apologize and retract before you find yourself in court, you should probably do that now. Because if you don't do that, once you're in court, now you just can't leave. You won't be able to get out of it. And we're not going to name names because there's some other folks who are doing that, and we want to be better than that. And I want to emphasize this, right? We're not here to guess. We're not here to speculate. We're only going to deal in facts, right? And here's the most important thing, right? We don't know how Nolan Wells died. No one here is saying we know. But what we do know is Morgan, Jax, and Warren had nothing whatsoever to do with Nolan Wells' death. And that's what's important. And unfortunately, because there are people who want to divide a town and come in from the outside and tell people what to think and pit neighbor against neighbor, it compounds the tragedy. It magnifies the tragedy. And I just want to say this. Here's why it's an even bigger tragedy. Because my friends here, Morgan, Jax, and Warren, these guys are not just the finest that Ocean Springs has to offer, the finest that Mississippi has to offer. These are the finest young men that America has to offer. You know, really great people. And Tyler actually taught me good Ocean Springs people. That was one of the first things I heard when I got here. So I'll just say that they're good Ocean Springs people.
Sorry to interrupt. I know you're enjoying this incredible interview. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe.
So at the end of the day, he's saying that these are great people. I'm not debating that. But at the end of the day, you're saying that they had nothing to do with this and you're going to go after people, but you're not even explaining to us the whole story in its entirety. I really wish that you would just give us the information. When he asked them about being accosted, which I believe is going to come up next, and I'm sorry, I've been doing two different things. I really did not want to give him this much information, but I mean, this much airtime on my channel. But when they talked about being accosted, as he put it, Here we are. I want y'all to listen to this because this is what we were supposed to be doing in the first place, was listening to this part.
By people. Can you give us an example of, or at least tell the audience an example of an incident where you guys may have been accosted, or what does that look like when you go out? People threaten you with weapons, or people trying to physically harm you, or people having to be restrained? What kind of engagement is happening when you guys go out?
We went to a restaurant, a couple of buddies of mine, and when we were, I wouldn't say threatening with weapons or anything, but I felt, and I know my friends felt, threat for our lives. I mean, I don't think there was like a fear factor, but at the same time, like it's awkward in public, like I stated, like when we have to talk about these things. But we went to a restaurant and someone came up to me and was like, "Is this you?" And I was kind of like shaken up about it. Well, at first she asked like my name and like all these questions, and I was like, okay, whatever, she's just coming up to talk. Well, then she came up to me again and showed me our first interview and was like, "Are you sure this isn't you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, that's me, like obviously." And she kind of just, I looked at my buddy and I was like, "Yeah, we're leaving, like close everything out, like we're going." And I left, and there was an altercation after I left with some of my buddies that weren't involved in this at all. And they told my friends that they were going to kill them and they wanted to fight and all this like crazy stuff. I mean, I wasn't there, but my friends told me this, that what the people were saying to them was like totally just crazy. Like, I mean, there was people like that were, outside of this telling us like, "Hey, you need to leave before something happens, because I know what could go down right now. And like, I know that these people are crazy." So, I mean, we all felt, we were kind of shaken up about that. It was weird because it was our first encounter as a group. And I think it's also like just crazy that people will like look at you in the eye and tell you they'll kill you because they believe you killed your best friend and you have nothing to do with it.
So tell us about the time that somebody looked you in your eye and told you that they were going to kill you. I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say, in this photo right here, in this still, the attorney is looking like the overseer, which we know he's there to oversee, right? Warren seems like he's being the leader to speak. But look at Jackson Morgan. You make a great point, King CJ, because the main person who we should be hearing from is Wyatt. Where's Wyatt? Where's his grandfather? Where are they? Where are they? They're not here. They have not stepped out and said anything publicly. And I don't think that we're going to hear from them either. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, I think there's a part 3 that's coming out. Once part 3 comes out, I will give y'all my full attention on this. But for me, I want the facts. You know, I want to hear what they have to say so that I can do the timeline the way that I need to do the timeline. But at the end, it's I'm pissed off that the case is not being focused on what the case is supposed to be about. And the case is supposed to be about figuring out, number one, what were the chain of events that happened from the time that they arrived at the island at 11-something, 11:14, 11:16 in the morning, when they arrived at that time, all the way up until that boat started moving away from the island at 4:31. What happened? The whole thing. Where was he? You're telling me that there was nothing? There was nothing. I don't know if there is. I believe there will be a part 3 because, I mean, this can't be the full. This can't be it. This can't be it. These 2 interviews, this can't be it. Because this interview, let's see how this one ended because I didn't watch this one till the end. Let's see how it ended.
For these guys, not the other guys who traffic in lies.
Support for the boys. I know that
behind us that is willing to stand for us and stand for the
us through all of this. It's really helped us out. I just want to say thank you to all the people out there. I mean, I personally went through and looked at all the like. There's a prayer thing you can say a prayer on there, and I personally went through and looked at all the prayers, and I'm just really appreciative of all the people that I know that have our backs and have supported us through all of this. It's really helped us out.
That's great.
Oh. You know, obviously, I want to give thanks to my friends and my family. Really appreciate it. I mean, it's hard to get by every day without having a group of people behind you. And it really helps my friend and I's, especially like mental side of things. You know, knowing that we have a community behind us that is willing to stand for us and stand for the truth. And you know, we can't thank them enough. Like seriously, with like Morgan said, the prayers and just even the money and the gifts and go. It's a blessing from the Lord. And, you know, we can't thank everybody enough. Seriously, it's been more than enough.
So again, focused on them. No, I didn't miss it. I just didn't cover that part. I didn't miss that part. I just wanted to make 2 points out of that video. But yeah, Jack said that he didn't hear any threats being made. So I'm saving that for my videos because I'm not. Look at the lawyer Warren's body language. So because questions are being asked, they're saying the public is lying and want to sue. They're saying that the public is lying on them by saying that they had anything to do with Nolan's death and that they, as a result of the public doing stories on them and saying that they had something to do with things, or I guess that they know things, just speaking on them in general. Yes, I believe they are trying to sue anybody that speaks on them. Well, I don't even see how Morgan would be a part of that because nobody knew anything about Morgan. So nobody said anything about Morgan. Now we know Morgan. Now we know what Morgan looks like. We know what Morgan's name is. We know that Morgan was one of the people that was there. We knew about Jax. We were asking, where was he? When is he going to say something? Because Jax is who he stayed the night out with. What he did not talk about was that either. Jax did not talk about that. So this is why I said there's got to be a part 3. But when we get done with all of this, I will give y'all my synopsis on it. Well, they will be deposed under oath once they sue. And that is a fact. That is a fact. And everything that they've said in these interviews or that's been typed online or any contradiction will come out in court. Great point. Great point.
So, Ed, what are your thoughts on this? I know you see the outpouring of support for the boys. I know that obviously with your credentials, you're taking on this case, which is a huge undertaking, representing multiple young people in this, with so many people that you have mentioned that could be and possibly going to get sued in this. So what would you like to say to the people about this?
Well, the most important thing is that these three outstanding young men who are completely innocent are worth standing behind. It's worth standing behind them. It's worth supporting them, because these three gentlemen here, they're going to go out into the world and they're going to do incredible things for society, right? These are three young men who want to help people and who are going to help people. They're just wonderful souls, wonderful human beings. So if you want someone to support, if you're looking for someone to support, and if you're looking for people who tell the truth and like evidence and common sense, you should support these guys, not the other guys who traffic in lies. All right. Now there's a Give, Send, Go page, right? Those donations.
Who are the other guys? You should support these guys. No. If you want to get to the bottom of the investigation, you should support truth and justice, not narrative spins, not turns on what's been reported, not any of that. You should support pushing for the truth and for justice, pushing for this investigation to become transparent as it was promised to be. Now he's making a statement of picking a side. We already know how people on that side feel. They feel like Ben Crump and Al Sharpton have lied. These boys, in their first interview, in the first portion of this interview, made it a point to blame Christine, blame the mom. The mom came out and said, somebody's lying. The stories don't add up. And they don't, because y'all are saying that Nolan stayed behind with Katie. Katie's saying Nolan went to go get on the boat with y'all. Something's not adding up. Somebody is not telling the truth. That's not defamation. That's common sense, sir. Common sense says when there's two different stories, something's not adding up. There's a lie in there somewhere. She never came out and said the boys are lying or Katie is lying. She said somebody is not telling the truth because it's not adding up. She said she believes that something was deleted out of his Snapchat because it was unusual for him to not snap or have the phone in his hands. Granted, we're talking about on land versus on water. I get that. I understand that narrative. But you mean to tell me there's not even a photograph of them from the morning when they woke up? There's no videos of them going to the boat. There's no videos of them on the boat riding out. There's no nothing. There's just that one photograph of all of them sitting on the boat together. That's it. Nolan has no photos at all of the day. Maybe not so much of events on the island if he left his phone on the boat, giving them the benefit of the doubt. If he left his phone on the boat and was off the boat, in the water, on the island, walking around all day, maybe. But there's absolutely nothing. There's nothing from when he got to Jax's house the night before. Y'all weren't doing anything that was snap worthy. So she has a suspicion. But they've started this whole campaign against the mother. That was what the first one was. Now this is the boys are the victim, and you're telling them to side with the boys. They're upstanding boys, yet they were out there drinking. You probably think Trump is an upstanding citizen too, huh?
Are very important. We have an incredible legal team. I'm very, very privileged to be working with Tyler Cox, called Cox, right? Is that right? So, but we're going to be bringing powerhouse lawsuits, absolutely powerhouse. But, right, it does require support. It requires support, and any support is greatly appreciated. But there are also things that people can do that have nothing to do with money. All we're asking people to do is embrace reality. Embrace common sense, and don't give in to your worst impulses. Do the research. Read. Look at the evidence, right? Start judging credibility.
How can we read and look at the evidence when the evidence is under lock and seal of the grand jury and Mississippi is not releasing anything? What evidence are you speaking on, sir? What evidence?
And look at the respective motivations, the motives on both sides, right? On one side, you have some folks who maybe are not motivated by such great things. But what we have on our side and why you should support us, one word for you. My favorite word, which is virtue. We've got virtue, all right? We've got the honesty. We've got the integrity, right? We're doing the right thing here. Honesty, integrity. That's us. Honesty, integrity, and the truth. And those are very high virtues. And that's why you should support these incredible young men.
Well, thank you guys for agreeing to do an interview. I really, the purpose, and I think you guys can agree to this.
Okay, so I misspoke and I thought that there would be a part 3, but it looks like that was it. So you misled the whole public with these 2 interviews. So I'm going to sit back, I'm going to take my notes, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in depth. But at the end of the day, you lied to us, Bigsby, Brandon Tatum. You lied to us because you said that this was a bombshell and that Nolan Wells' friends exposed what really happened with the CISO phone call. They didn't expose anything. Then in the other video, you named it that they had something with the investigation. They didn't. They didn't. These are clickbait titles. These are clickbait titles to get people to click on and all of that. Right? They drop a massive update in the Nolan Wells investigation. What massive update did they drop? Then you have this lawyer up here who is saying, choose their side, be on this side, support these boys. You're not saying, let's all put this to the side, all the noise and the chatter that's going on from both sides, and let's just focus on finding out what happened to Nolan. I would have accepted that. You made no mention of Nolan came out of that lawyer's mouth at fucking all. How disgusting was that? And I said it. Disgusting. Because it's coming off, you're asking the people to choose between what? The family and the boys? Because that's what it's giving, that you want us to choose the side of the boys. Get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. I said I was going to be polite, and I'm not. I'm not being polite. Anyway, let's get into this next piece of content. Continue to fight for Nolan Wells, for justice for Nolan Wells. Let's get into this. So as you all know, Tupac, we're finally getting to the trial of I would say all of our lives. If you were a part of 90s rap, you know Tupac. Okay? He was an intellectual mind, a revolutionary. He was an artist in every sense of the word. When he died, that put such a hole in hip hop that it never recovered. Okay? And then shortly thereafter, we lost Biggie Smalls. We lost Big, B.I.G. And those gaps in hip hop have never been replaced. But when it comes to Tupac, his death has had more, I don't want to say more traction, but it has become the hugest mystery of them all. When the announcement of Keefe D being arrested came out, I don't think anybody was truly surprised. Keefe D was out here doing interviews. He wrote a book giving details on Vlad. the whole 9 yards, and basically placed himself in the car with Orlando Anderson. Keefe D has said out of his own mouth that he was the person that gave the green light basically on Tupac, that he handed the murder weapon to Orlando, his nephew. And the reason all of this took place is because Tupac and Suge Knight, and I believe it was some of the Outlaws, all whooped Orlando Anderson's ass in the MGM. And we all know what happened. Okay? Now, here we are in 2026. We're finally at the trial. Trial is coming, y'all. They've already done jury selection. Okay, I did not cover the jury selection, but I can if y'all want. I also have been poking around, and it looks like TMZ sat down and spoke with none other than Reggie Wright. Now, you already know there's a lot about Reggie Wright that is out there. And as this trial goes on, we will learn more. I've spoken about Reggie Wright a couple of times on my channel, not too much. But let's hear what this TMZ interview has to say about, what Reggie Wright had to say about this trial.
Hey guys, it's Jackson Buhai, your host of In the Know here with TMZ. The Tupac murder trial has become a pretty big topic of discussion for people in the country, and I thought it would be advantageous to bring in someone who was the former head of security at Death Row Records.
Now, first of all, let me just say this. TMZ, you're pissing me off already. You're pissing me off already. No offense to this young man who is doing the interview, but TMZ, you should have had somebody do this interview that's from the era. You should have had somebody who was around at least during the time when this all took place. You should have had somebody around then. To bring somebody who is brand new to all of this, like, and when I say brand new, I mean, baby, if you wasn't out here, Brenda had a baby. Okay, if you wasn't out here when Brenda had a baby and I get around and all of that, if you wasn't here for the era of Tupac, you don't really know all of the backstory. Like, you wasn't here for all of the interviews, all the sneak dissing and all of that stuff that was going on. You need somebody with a little bit more seasoning on them. Okay, that's just like the young man who interviewed Jay-Z. You was not here for reasonable doubt, my mans. Not to say that they can't do a good interview, but I'm just saying, people that know. Like, why didn't Reggie Wright sit with Torre?
And also a witness that the prosecution has called to the trial, and that's none other than Reggie Wright Jr. Reggie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Respect for having me, Jackson.
Of course. Now, look, I just want to get right into it. What if prosecutors asked you to testify to, and does any of it surprise you after nearly 30 years?
Well, I've been kind of aware of it prior to 30 years, because this investigation been going on for a while. They came knocking on my door probably in about 2021, 2022. I also testified before the grand jury in 2023. All of they asked me, I wasn't there. I wasn't in the entourage.
Are we ever going to get to the radio call? Like, there's a radio call. Like, did they forget about that? Like, you had walkie-talkies, Reggie. It was heard. We heard it on the Motorola. What was it on the Nextel? The bleep. Like, I ain't forget that. Oh. Let's continue.
And I wasn't at the MGM hotel when the incident that happened in the hotel that we all know about between Mr. Shakur, Mr. Knight and their entourage, and Mr. Anderson. So I'm only able to speak on an atmosphere that was going on between Death Row, Bad Boys, my experience as a police officer from the city of Compton, between the mob Pyrus and the Southside Compton Crips.
Oh, Reggie, there's allegations of you being a 137 informant. So, I mean, you may not have been in the vicinity of the MGM, but you was there. You was there.
And so that's all they'll be talking to me about. As far as trying to identify or say who shot who or who did that, I can't help them. Only speculation, just like all the other Americans or people around the world.
Do you believe this trial will produce the full truth or just Keefe D's version of it?
Well, I'm hoping the prosecution have a little more that we don't know about, that haven't leaked out to the YouTube or to the social media world that we don't know about. And I'm pretty sure they do. That's the unfortunate thing about social media. We take everything as facts that we hear on social media and think we know everything, when there are good investigators and law enforcement out there to keep everything close to the vest. And I believe there are going to be some things.
Let me explain something to you. There is going to be some things. Because there's a man, there's a channel called Tupac Assassination. And RJ inherited the case files. And RJ has been on Reggie Wright's neck. Okay? Shout out to him and his channel. He even did a movie on it, a little clip, like little video on it. Yeah.
That we believe that were true, that's going to turn out to be completely lies. And there's going to be some things that get verified. And then there are going to be some things that we just never heard before that's going to come out during this trial.
I've seen some people online state that you've known Keefe D for quite a long time. Is that true?
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. Like I said, I worked in law enforcement from 1985 until 1996. So of course I heard of his name because he had a pretty good reputation as far as being a leader of set in Compton that pushed heavy narcotics. But in any personal interactions with him, I never had with
Oh, Reggie, you're lucky that I'm not trying to make this video about you per se. But Reggie, you was not a squeaky clean 5-0. You was not squeaky clean. You got a history of your own dealings of narcotics, allegedly.
So you've never met Keefe D before?
In 2012 or 2014 in the city of Corona, his wife was working at a grocery store. It's called Henry's. And I was walking out. I guess he noticed me coming out of the grocery store. He walked up and said, "Hey, little Reg, you know who I am?" And I looked at him and pretty much said, "No." And he introduced himself as Keefe D from Compton Southside Crip. And I laughed. It was funny to me because I asked him, "They still allow you to claim Compton Southside Crip?" Knowing that all the allegations and the snitching that he had done on Murder Rap and a document that I knew of that happened in 1998.
That is something that has occurred, that did occur. Keefe D has been out here snitching. He's been out here self-snitching and all of that. But I want to get to this interview that was done by Jesse Weber on News Nation with Keefe D's former attorney. And then I want to talk about this interview that Keefe D recently did. So let's get into that. So we know the reason why we were here with Reggie is because Reggie is going to be testifying for the prosecution, which means he is a state's witness. He is not a defense witness. And I'm interested in seeing what Reggie Wright has to say. Now, Reggie Wright knows who Keefe D is. Like, he's such a, we can't even get into that. I'm trying not to get into all of that stuff on Reggie or anyone else because I'm trying to keep this on Keefe D and Tupac because I want to know what happened to Tupac. I think all of us in hip hop are going to be paying attention to it. And yes, I'm going to be covering this. I was debating whether or not I was going to cover it here on YouTube or if I was going to cover it on my Twitch, but I'm definitely going to be here on YouTube with it. This is a part of history that I do plan to be here for, period. Like I can't. And I just want to say shout out to y'all because y'all were able to get me to stay on here longer than I wanted to. Y'all also were able to get me to get on here and start putting documents on the screen and playing videos where it was supposed to just be an audio. It wasn't even supposed to be a video, but here we are because y'all are spoiled.
Years after Tupac Shakur was Nearly 30 years after Tupac Shakur was gunned down on the Las Vegas Strip, the only man ever charged with his murder is finally going to trial. Jury selection began today for Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, with about 75 potential jurors called to court. Now, the process could take several days, and once the jury is seated, this trial could reportedly last as long as 5 weeks. Keefe D. is charged with murder with a deadly weapon. And to be clear, prosecutors don't claim he actually pulled the trigger. No, they say he was the shot caller, that he orchestrated it, that he was the one who helped put this whole deadly ambush in motion. And if convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison without parole. But here's what makes this case so extraordinary. Some of the most allegedly damning evidence against Keefe D. may have come from Keefe D. himself. 2019 memoir.
It did not may have come from. It did come from. It came directly from his mouth. And that's why I want to talk about this interview that he did recently, because I couldn't believe the words that was coming out of his mouth. But let's get into it.
Compton street legend. He apparently described being inside the white Cadillac, writing that, quote, one of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock. In a 2008 recorded interview with investigators, he apparently described his nephew Orlando Anderson, saying he leaned over, rolled down the window, and popped him. 2018 BET interview. Keefe D. said, when he pulled up, I was in the front seat. Now, the defense argues these stories were exaggerated, that they were fabricated, that they were all designed to sell books and get attention. They've even questioned whether Keefe D. actually wrote the book. See, the problem with that is he once allegedly admitted he was the author in a jailhouse call.
See, that's what happens when you talk too much. That's what happens. He was on Vlad. He was here. He was there. He was every goddamn where. Running his mouth. And it's all coming back to bite you in the end.
Okay, not great for the defense, but is all this bad enough to convict him? Because reportedly, no murder weapon, no car, no surveillance footage of the actual shooting in question. Are you going to have direct eyewitnesses? Maybe. I want to bring in somebody with a very unique perspective on this case. That's Robert Draskevich, Dwayne Keefe Davis's former attorney who withdrew from the case in March. Thanks for taking the time. That jailhouse call.
I would love to know why this man withdrew from the case. Did you withdraw because you knew it was going to be a losing case, sir? Jesse, please tell me you got us the answer.
Problematic?
It is somewhat, but it won't be the first time that a man has lied to a woman. This is a jail phone call, and oftentimes people exaggerate, make up stories, and try and explain the reason why they find themselves in that certain set of circumstances. But obviously a jury is going to take that into consideration, and that does create a problem for the defense.
Now, it's interesting. I cover a lot of cases, and I hear sometimes people who say things in jail. You could say, listen, rough environment. Maybe they're just saying whatever they need to say to, protect themselves. Like you said, maybe you said whatever he said for a woman. But the multitude of apparent admissions, the argument would be this was all exaggerated, this was all to sell books, this was all to get notoriety. Is the frequency of it going to be too much for a jury?
before he answers that question, you got to remember something. Always remember, the jury is people like you and me that end up getting on those jury panels to watch these cases, to listen and hear evidence. So at the end of the day, if he has repetitively told us things, and if he has told the story the same way each time, and each time he's told that story, he has been detailed to where you can actually see this stuff happening, then he absolutely has sold the public that he was there and he was a part of the assassination on Tupac. So there's not going to be any way for me personally, I can't see him getting out of this by just saying, oh, I was just saying that for clout, because that's basically what they're trying to say when they say that he's like, oh, he did it for notoriety. So he did this for the clout. So he jammed himself up into a murder investigation by running his mouth so much for clout. No, sir, you thought because everybody else was dead that you could now talk, and that the only two people that were still alive, which was Suge and you from that incident, and Suge is locked up in Click Click City, you just felt like you could just talk because you wanted clout. Self-snitching for clout. It ain't like it don't happen, but God.
That's a good question. You've already laid out the profit motive. Keefe Day made a lot of money making these admissions. There was a book published. He's made multiple appearances on TV, and he's been paid nearly every time that he's made these statements. I would anticipate the jury relying upon the evidence, and you've pointed out that there's a lack of hard evidence connecting him to this crime.
Well, is there, I mean, other than the alleged admissions, what is the hard evidence against them? I was interviewing Alexandra Kazarian the other day. She said she doesn't see much. You once said, and correct me if I'm wrong, you described the evidence in this case as voluminous. What else will the prosecution present against him besides his apparent statements?
Well, during the time that I was representing him, I kept expecting there to be a new witness, some surprise development. The discovery in this case was voluminous. I mean, we've got 364 gigabytes of discovery, well over 20,000 pages. Throughout my review of that evidence, there was nothing putting him there in the car other than his own words. I'm unaware of a single eyewitness that will put him in the car. In fact, I saw in a recent interview, a jail interview, where he's saying that he wasn't even in Las Vegas at the time of the shooting.
What y'all think about that? Because I heard that too. I heard that Keefe D wasn't in Vegas at the time. I don't know how true that is. He described the whole hit. Word was the feds promised him immunity on talking. Well, it wasn't the feds. I think it was California. Well, I got to go back and refresh myself with Keefe D and who offered him that deal. But he was offered a deal, but the deal that he was given did not cover Vegas. Right. He thought they killed Suge. You absolutely correct. And I mean, that's why I said I heard that same thing. But I didn't hear that Keefe D wasn't in Vegas until Keefe D was in Click Click City in Vegas. So I don't believe it. If you ask my personal opinion, I don't believe it. I believe he was there. Orlando Anderson was his nephew. He's got motive for why he would give his nephew the okay. So I'm not hearing it. I don't believe it.
But if they can prove that he was there, and they couple it with that interview, which can, by all accounts, probably used against them, that I have to imagine that could be problematic. What about the idea of any gang associations, any gang associates testifying and what his role was, or placing him in Las Vegas, or talking about any beef that he had? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, that's the state's theory, that he is the shot caller. That's a common theme. But again, the jury's going to need facts. He has to be there, regardless of what he has said. We've talked previously about these ideas of dual personas. I mean, he's taking some poetic license with this tale. People have done it for decades to sell records.
No, you're not going to compare selling records to sitting up here admitting to being a part of one of the biggest murders in hip hop. You're not going to do that. We, the people, ain't buying that. Sorry. Try again. No, we're not buying that. This was more than just a persona. It's not only just what he said, it's how he said it, right? Because it's more than what he said, it's how he said it. Because Keefe D was very braggadocious, right? He was very braggadocious with the way that he talked about these stories. So I'm not trying to hear it.
I don't really think this case is really any different, absent any real physical proof.
What about Suge Knight? Suge Knight's in prison right now. There's a question of whether or not he'd be called as a witness, whether he'd voluntarily testify. Do you think that he could be a key prosecution witness? Hey, maybe even a defense witness?
That we had discussed the possibility of calling him. He's currently serving a 28-year sentence in San Diego. I know that he has said repeatedly that he wants nothing to do with this case. In fact, I recall reading wherein he said that Orlando Anderson was not the shooter. But outside of that, time will tell, and we'll see through the course of this trial.
I'm going to ask you a very tricky question because I know you're very limited to what you can say. But any chance Keefe D would take the stand? He said a lot. Will this be his opportunity to tell the jury his side of the story in a different way?
It wouldn't surprise me, perhaps, if he did. He likes to talk. He's a very likable gentleman. He's quite witty. Over and over again, he's wanted to tell his story in open court. If he testifies, it wouldn't surprise me.
And we got 30 seconds. You think there's a chance he'll be acquitted? And then I think because he's the only one that's ever going to trial, it seems.
And one would expect the jury to hear from him. Through the course of the grand jury, the prosecution read the book that you had referred to, Compton Street Legend. There's going to be a dispute as to whether or not that, in fact, or those, in fact, are his words. There's quotes. The Invisible Man. Yeah. You read the book, and it's clearly not the way that Keefe D speaks. It wouldn't surprise me if he did testify.
Okay. Well, let's watch it together. Let's see what happens. Robert Draskevich, got an open platform. Come back here.
So since they brought up Suge, let's get to Suge. Because Suge Knight, according to TMZ, says that he doesn't want to testify in the Tupac murder trial. And I got some things to say about that, but let's listen.
Prosecution is saying is that the best witness for them is Keefe D, because he essentially confessed that he wrote a book. He's talked about this on podcasts. He's now kind of moonwalking back here and saying, well, I had a ghostwriter in the book. What do you make of that?
He's full of I look at it like this. It's not about picking on Keefe D, but at the same time, most of his situations, I know he did it to himself. I knew his lawyer. His lawyer was a friend of mine. And I knew about him having immunity and doing that deal a long time ago. But the crazy thing about it, for 30 years or so or more, it cost me my freedom. It cost me money. It cost me business deals. I paid a lot for the fact that from day one, even though I got a bullet an inch into my skull, they always says I'm the one who had Tupac killed, which is far from the truth. Every person who participated in that, they never brung up. But I believe in giving everybody the opportunity. I have a book coming out called Your Pain Is My Joy. It was coming out this month. When I found out that he wasn't been going to trial, I said, well, I'm not going to put the book out. I'll put it out in September because it'll be too much, for them to deal with. He deserves a fair shake. But I think what he should do, he already told everything. He already told on himself. He should deal with a situation where make it best for everybody. Put it in a situation where there's a lot of people who participated and a lot of people who they don't talk about. And I'm not here to say they should get punished because I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the revenge. I believe that my kindness comes from God. My strength comes from God.
Hold on. First of all, he said there's a lot of people involved. I get you ain't no snitch. But that right there is an indirect statement being made that there's a lot of people involved. And you're right, Bradley. He has said that he wouldn't snitch, but knew who did it. Now, I'm going to take y'all back down memory lane for a second because I'm not disputing Keefe D's involvement. But what I also remember is Reggie Wright's name being very heavy in this as well. And I don't feel that Reggie should be a prosecution witness. I feel like, in my humblest of opinions, Reggie Wright should be sitting right next to Keefe D. Should have been sitting next to Keefe D. And that's just in my opinion. But see, Suge, you sound a little shook to say something. And why is that? I thought you could snitch on the dead. Isn't that the street rule? You could snitch on the dead because the dead ain't here no more. I thought everybody that was involved, except for Keefe D and Reggie Wright, who was allegedly involved, I thought they were all dead. Ain't that what y'all heard? Henny Glasses in the chat if that's what you heard too. If that's not what you heard, put a 2 in the chat. But that's what I heard.
So I'm not on that page and saying they need to get punished, but it's sort of sad that every person has all dropped everything on Keefe D. When you look at it, he got immunity. So they can never charge him again.
No. I can't get behind this statement that he's saying. Suge is saying basically that the family don't deserve no justice. The family don't deserve to know what happened. The public don't deserve to know what happened. That you should just keep your mouth shut and that it ain't fair that everybody is dropping everything on Keefe D. That Keefe D is being left to hold the bag. Well, and my.
But then he was in bed and dealing with a guy that knew if you do a book, he was on one podcast 7 times, another podcast 5 times, and he did a book.
So
that destroyed his immunity.
Suge, I know you've told us over the years that you're not snitching, you're not naming any names, but it does sound like you were saying there are other people involved.
You said
beyond Keefe D.
many others.
And even though Keefe D is the guy standing trial, that there are many others involved?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say these guys' names, but everybody knows. One thing you got to realize, even in my book, that's why I pushed it back. It tells the details of certain things, but it's still no names involved. If That's all you got to look around and see the people, even people who got the fake death row. They've been talking and talking and talking and talking. All of a sudden, it get close to this situation with Keefe D, everybody's quiet. One thing I also want to say is that there was a girl I knew back in the day named SKG. She was black, Asian, about 5'6", 115 pounds. Now somebody else saying they SKG. And they deal with a person that deals with Keefe D. They deal with a person who hated Tupac. All these people were saying the most horrible things about Tupac because you.
Now, according to Suge, there is a real SKG out there and there's a fake one. And the fake one sits with somebody who hates Tupac, who had all this shit to say about him. Do y'all know who he's talking about? We know who the fake SKG is because the fake SKG is the one that. Do y'all know who we talking about before I get to talking about what I'm about to talk about? Yes, uniquely. According to Suge Knight, she's a fake SKG. There's a real SKG out here. Okay, so the SKG girl that he's saying is the fake SKG is the SKG that chills, that's on whack side. That's whack people. That's the same girl when Wax said he was coming for Wax said he was coming for Big U's contracts and all of that. That's the girl he sent up there to go jump on and you know, make Big U look bad in front of all of them investors. See, he's talking, but he ain't saying no names. He's leaving it up to the people to put it together. That's what he's talking about. I'm gonna rewind it.
And they SKG. There was a girl I knew back in the day named SKG. She was black, Asian, about 5'6", 115 pounds. Now somebody else saying they SKG. And they deal with a person that deals with Keefe D. They deal with a person who hated Tupac. All these people were saying the most horrible things about Tupac because you possibly can say about a man. And it was all lies. Now they want to act like they're going to report what's going on. But these guys is in Keefe D's camp who tried to bail him out and help him.
Who tried to bail Keefe D out and help him? I'm going to wait for y'all. Come on, man. Where my people at? Y'all sleeping? I don't know what happened. I don't know why we ain't got that many people in here. Uniquely, it looks like you the only one awake. Wack was the one that was trying to get him bailed out and quote unquote help him because he wanted Keefe D's life rights. Remember? Okay, so Miss Shay, the allegations that this fake SKG is made against Big U is that he DP'd her. That he called her up to Nipsey's shop, or Nipsey called her up to the shop, and Big U beat her up. That's the story. But prior to that, Wack was saying how he was going to come for Big U's contracts. He was going to come for his credit. Basically, Wack was coming for him. He said it. And shortly thereafter, that's what happened.
I don't look for bad on him, but I don't look for good on him. It is what it is. But at the same time, I think it's an opportunity for him to clear the board.
Are you saying
he know the truth?
Are you saying that there's someone who either hired or sent Keefe D on this mission to kill Tupac?
You know, one of the things you got to realize, this was assassination. It wasn't over no chain. It wasn't over no colors. This was assassination. And they can do one who assassinated Kennedy and everybody can talk about it. But when it comes to Tupac, nobody really wants the truth because the fact that the truth would have set me free. The truth wouldn't have caused them, the same people who allowed them to lie on me, it's the same people. You got to remember one thing, Harvey.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
What I like about you, Harvey, we got a lot in common. You started TMZ, you are TMZ. I have seen people over the years say, you know what? I'm going to start my own TMZ. You know what? I'm going to do some on my own. And they fail and they fail and they fail. That's like what people say about Death Row. Well, I'm going to start my own Death Row. I'm going to be Death Row. And they fail and they fail and they fail.
Now, y'all know that there is an entity called Death Row Records that allegedly 600 owns.
That's why I with you, because we got a lot in common. But this is the thing. When it's all said and done, this really, all this stuff, constantly destroying hip-hop. Hip-hop is one of the most influenced art that you can think of. And even today, you got guys still paying for stuff that they have no reason to get a fair shake. Shot goes out to Lil Durk. Shot goes out to the other little young guy who's real, Pooh Shiesty, NBA guy. It's on us to lay our truth down to help the people behind us. We so caught up in look at me, look at me, look at me. We got to figure out how to fix this. Only way we can fix this is by putting everything on the table.
So, you know, Suge, I have talked to you. I have talked to you over the years about this, and there's something I don't understand, because you just said a few minutes ago that you are not into revenge. That's why you're not going to talk. But Tupac was a close friend of yours, and isn't there a difference between revenge and justice? That you said earlier that Keefe D is full of and that you were kind of scoffing at him. So do you feel like there should be, I guess, what I call justice in the system where he's convicted and maybe others come forward and are convicted as well? Or do you think they should all be shut down?
Well, I think it's no justice from a man come from the inner cities in the courts. I think it's all revenge. So we never get justice. So when you really look at it,
you have 60 seconds remaining.
You just had it on your show. A white woman stabs a black man to death and kills him, and they get 3 or 4 years. People had guns, and they had tests to prove they was trying to kill me. It was a hit, and someone dies, and look how much time I got.
Seems like Suge was watching yesterday. He made the reference to Courtney Clenny.
Yeah.
Getting out in less than 2 years.
Well, you heard they said 60 seconds left, and they mean business in the penitentiary. So we have lost Suge.
Okay, so I'm going to say this. Suge said a lot, but Suge has a lot on him because at the end of the day, you can't negate away from the fact that nobody with a rational mind is looking at this the way that he is. Okay. He and Tupac were supposed to be so close, right? And what many of us, and I'm seeing y'all in the comments, can't wrap our heads around is this notion of I'm not gonna say nothing. I don't believe in revenge, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that don't sit right with people because even the average everyday person who is not a part of the world that Suge comes from, right, wants some type of justice, wants some type of get back, wants some type of something. When they lose someone, that is so close to them, allegedly. It doesn't sound to me like he's going to cooperate, and it sounds to me like Suge is still trying to protect those who killed him, who killed Pac. Which I don't understand. But as this trial goes on, I feel that there are going to be things that are brought to the table, because there are going to be people that are not going to be afraid to speak to what they know. They're not going to be afraid to speak up and speak out. They're not going to be afraid to do any of those things. So I'm definitely looking forward to this trial. Okay? Because I want to know what happened to Tupac, just like I want to know what happened to Nolan Wells. So, yeah, we're going to be covering it, just so you guys have a heads up. That's what we're doing. I'm going to say thank you guys for tapping in and tuning in. I know that I've been going for a couple of days. I'm just trying to figure out a more feasible schedule for me. I also wanted to talk about this, but I didn't get into it. I'm going to say this very briefly before I end. There's more to come with Nolan. There's more to come with this Tupac trial. But most importantly, as we are out here moving about these internet streets, please make sure that you are taking care of yourself, taking care of your mental health. Take mental health breaks when you need to. Put the phone down, turn the internet off, and get into real life. Some people stay on the internet 24/7, 365. They know everything because they be everywhere and into everything. You have to unplug, tune out. Go outside, breathe some fresh air, listen to the rain, get you some sleep. I know for me, my body has been crashing on me because it needs rest. Okay? Your body, your mind, your spirit, it all needs rest. And it's okay to seek help with your mental health if you have some things that are going on. And I know that in the Black community, it is very hard to get ourselves to a therapist. It's still a stigma, but we all can use some help. Being Black in America will give you PTSD, even if you've never had it before. But take some time for you. And that's what I'm doing. What did you say? I absolutely agree with you. I feel like maybe he's protecting himself. So he can't really, he can't go in there and say anything and then go back to his prison cell and everything be okay. Thank you to those who have hit the tip jar today. Thank you to those who have commented, who have liked, who have watched and participated. I'm going to continue to take myself on my hiatus and take it easy with me. I suggest you all do the same as well, because you are the most important person. When you wake up in the morning, it's you. So make sure you're taking care of you, because a lot of these stories can get heavy and stressful. And I would love to see you here in the next one. I love all of y'all. Remember to vibe high so the bullshit don't stick. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace, everybody.